Hello, I'm Esty McLeod and welcome. I'm the curator of Colori Combo, the ongoing program about colour and creativity, and also Colori Flori, the summit that this year I'm bringing you another 13 artists, 14 together with me, and we'll be sharing all kinds of projects inspired by florals and botanicals and colours, and that's from the 18th to the 31st of May. But before we start, I wanted to create a little warm-up exercise, and specifically I wanted to focus on sketchbook work. Sketchbooks are often the very place where new ideas are formed. And I've created a little project over 2 days called B is for Bloom. And the idea is to use simple shapes, letter shapes, to create florals from. And you do it in a sketchbook. You use materials that you have. You can add a bit of color, but the idea is just to draw and explore possibilities. We keep it small. You don't have to go big, and you don't have to think really about what you do. It will come about. I'll show you some ideas using watercolor, acrylic marker, fine liner, dip pen. Basically use what you have. Color is not really important. I'm touching a little bit on the color in this week's Colori Combo, the yellow and black combination. I'd love to see what you do. So let's go. Sketchbooks are important to me, and I always carry one. Sometimes it's just a small one, and it's good to take notes, so to speak, when traveling. Come up with new ideas. It's just a great way to be in the moment, and maybe new ideas will come from it. Just keeping it open as a way to entertain thoughts and to think of possibilities. I love using these small format as well, and sometimes it's just a doodle. It's not big, it's not overly important. It's just a wonderful way to create. As you can see here in today's sketchbook, I am working in this kind of format. Here you can see some of my shapes that I've been sharing for Colori Combo for the weekly prompts. This is a shape that was in one, and here I've used it in a different direction. Simple floral. These are also shapes from previous Colori Combo prompts. But today it's going to be about using very few colors, actually starting with no color whatsoever, working in black and possible yellow, brown and green if you want to, but using the shape of the letter B. And you can see these downloadable sheets. This is the starting point for you to work from, and let me walk you through some ideas, and you'll see which ones grab you and make you want to draw as well. Okay, let's go. B is for Bloom. You can see the lettering in big bold lettering, and you can download this as well as this page with lots of B shapes that's been distorted and been a bit deformed. And these are the colors I'm working in. Lemon yellow, saffron, olive, and charcoal. I've thrown in a little bit of brown as well, deep brown. So again, the idea of sketchbook work is, today's lesson is to think of keeping it small, just trying some shapes in a way that respond to florals and plants, botanicals, leaves. And these are ones I've done in the past, and some of them have been done with the Colori Combo color shapes. So you can see here a lot of play with color.
but just having fun and doing a bit of negative painting or negative drawing, I should say, looking at the negative shape, creating forms, quite stylized forms. But I'm going to start off with just using these shapes. I cut them out, and to do so I used a craft knife, and you can see they've been cut out there, between a craft knife and a small pair of scissors. And then here's the sketchbook that I've been working in, and just going to a page here, and then I'm looking at how to use these bee shapes. I'm going to cut them out and just line them up, and it looks like half of a leaf. You can draw your own bee shapes. You absolutely do not have to use these. It's just a nice way to get ideas and get started, so make it a bit simpler. And that's why I'm giving you those shapes. But you can by all means do your own version of bees and change them and create your own vocabulary of shapes there. So I've got this one on the one side looking like a leaf with this curved scalloped edges, and I'm doing the same on the other side. So working almost like a symmetrical, creating a symmetrical design. I'm drawing with a black sepia luminance pencil, and this is another thing, it's quite good lesson or good element to take into account, is to draw with a colored pencil. That's sometimes a good idea rather than just a graphite pencil. It becomes more permanent immediately, and so I'm talking like a brown pencil or a blue pencil, and here I'm filling it in with black from a pigment liner. But you can obviously also draw in a regular pencil, but don't get bogged down with having to draw the lines perfect and then filling it in. This is a drawing, it's a work in progress. I just decided now to make it solid with the black, and then I'm doing the same on the other side. So at the top I have these floral shapes, and there I'm adapting and changing it as I see fit, and adding some doodle marks, adding some lines, and playing with the form. Changing the shape of the leaves, adding a few more details. So that's the first one done. For this one I've used 4 bee shapes. They don't all match up perfectly. I'm using a fine liner here, and here I'm drawing again with a pencil and a fine liner, filling in the colour to make it solid. And I've actually changed over to use a brown Posca pen, acrylic marker. I don't use them all that often, but it is actually really handy for creating solid colour shapes and doing it when you don't want to paint, but you want to get a really good solid strong paint colour. Playing with the shape, and I've used the L in the word that was as part of B is for bloom. So that's the bottom side of it that's twisted, and then the B shapes, and then there's an O at the top. So quite structured, very simplified, stylized. And then I'm creating a flower at the top. Filling in the shape there to create these little rounded shapes that correspond a bit to the letter B, and I'm adding colour. I have drawn with an Inktense pencil, and now I've adding water to it and spreads the yellow around a bit. And here's another one. So at the top I've got the B shape and it's lying on its side, so I have this scallop shape and I'm using a dip pen. So for this lesson you can really use what you have. I'm using a dip pen and I'm drawing with watercolor. I'm not using ink in this lesson, but just use what you have and work with dark colors. Here I'm using a Payne's grey and I am freehand drawing the R shape. I'm just looking at the shape that I had, my stencil shape, and improvising. So how will I be creating a plant out of this that looks more like a plant than like an upside down R shape? I'm filling it in with watercolor. I'm drawing with the paintbrush as well. Paintbrush is not just for filling in of color, adding blocks of color. It is also for drawing. But I use it between the dip pen and between the paintbrush and the dip pen. I'm also using the paintbrush to fill color onto the dip pen rather than me dipping the pen. I find it much easier to just scrape it off from the paintbrush, as you see there. Now I'm doing a little leaf at the bottom, and you can see the upside down R had then been drawn in a mirror, so it reflects, and you create that twist in the middle. So the one side is the same as the other, but I'm adding, I don't want to make it perfectly the same, so I'm adjusting it a little bit and distorting the shape and adding more details. So there I'm drawing, painting a leaf on the side. It's a good idea to keep the colours very limited to start off with, or just use a brown, a grey or black for the basic drawings in today's lesson. Adding some detail to the flower. And here I'm doing an F shape, and I'm using a dip pen again. So the F shape is at the top, and then I've got the two B shapes that are in the mirroring each other, so sort of symmetrical. And now I'm adding lines and drawing onto the shape that I created already, and just adding more detail, more lines. Creating more sort of rendered marks. I really love using a dip pen, but you need a bit more, you need to be a bit more careful with paint doing that. So it's something that I would do in my studio, whereas many of the other drawings I will do on the go. When I travel, I always have a few drawing instruments with me, watching TV. I love to play with it and add onto previously created drawings. And this is the beauty of working in this small scale on a page and leaving space next to it. It means you can add on and make more as you see fit. So here I've added more marks. I've also drawn on it with a dip pen. Apart from the dip pen, I've also drawn with a fine liner, and I just mix it up. This is watercolor that I've drawn with a dip pen, the majority, and what I'm doing now. So I'm not using ink for the drawing. I really like drawing with watercolor. You may have to try out a few different dip pens to find one that really works for you, but it's worth persevering. You can see I'm holding the dip pen at quite a flat angle so it doesn't scrape too much. And as mentioned, I'm also using a fine liner just to illustrate. You can combine it and add elements at different stages. So here I have a bee again lying on its side. For this drawing I'm using the dip pen and creating this stylized flower, and now I'm just responding to the shapes that's already there. And I've made more leaves using the bee shape. I filled it in with watercolor, and now I'm drawing on top of it with a darker watercolor. So I'm not using color much at all. I'm just exploring what I can do with the shapes in the PDF, in the download. These will give me ideas to use in other artworks later on. It's a nice way to explore. The real thing about working in a sketchbook is that you don't have the pressure that you will have when you make an artwork for the outcome to look in a certain way. You can be more daring and try things out, and if it doesn't work, then you just do another one. And that really is the fun bit about it. So for this one, I've used the F shape for the stem, and then I've used various bee shapes to create the petals on the outside, and I'm filling them in with smaller petals. So this flower will look a bit like a sunflower. In the end, I'm using a deep grey luminance pencil. I've spoken about luminance pencils before. I really like them because it's a very soft drawing pencil, but it has oiliness to it, an oil substance. So when you paint with water over it, with watercolor, it doesn't smudge at all. It's very high. It's got a high pigment concentration, and it's just a lovely pencil to draw with. It's my favorite. And the other thing is you can buy them individually, so you don't have to buy a pack of pencils. They are not cheap. It's definitely on the more expensive scale of drawing tools, but I think it's absolutely worth it. And I sharpen mine not with a pencil sharpener. I use a craft knife, as you can see there. So they're always a little bit almost blunt. I just don't have a sharp point for them unless I deliberately sharpen them to create a sharp point. I just like having the broader, thicker line to draw with. But you can use absolutely any drawing material you have. That's more important than anything else. Is just use what you have. You can draw this with a ballpoint pen, doesn't matter. Or pencil, regular pencil. They are filled in colour. I've added some yellow pencil, and that definitely puts it in the visual link to a sunflower. And I'm adding some black marks in this grid that I have on the inside. So a structured, stylized flower. And there's the There you can see the outcome of this one with just one big bloom, and the leaves are not so important. So the attention's all on the big flower, and it's got these 3 smallish leaves on the side. So first one was a duplicate of 2 stems with simple florals. This one has a very retro feel to it. This one's done in watercolor, more painting, a bit more loose. Lots of line work in this one. This one line and watercolor combination. And then the sunflower floral. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson and that you will try it out as well. I will be sharing more in the next weekend warm-up lesson before Colori Flori starts. And thank you very much for watching. I'd love to see what you do. Join us on the Facebook group if you like, or if you post this on social media, please tag Esti McLeod. It was just great to see how you create from simple shapes. I'd love to see what you do. Thank you for watching.